This video is a quick introduction to Hume's problem of induction. Hume was very interested in inductive inferences because he realized that all our knowledge about the world relies on inductive inferences. It doesn't matter if it's something very simple, such as noticing that there's somebody living in the house next door because you see smoke coming out from the chimney, or a very sophisticated inference in, say, theoretical physics. What Hume realized is that in all these inferences, what we're assuming is that the future resembles the past. But the thing is that we can never know that the future will resemble the past in the future. So Hume came to the conclusion that all our inductive inferences about the world are based not on reasoning with our intellect, but on habit. To understand how Hume arrived at this conclusion, it helps if we review his distinction between relations of ideas and matters of fact. What Hume called relations of ideas were statements in mathematics or pure logic that can be proven using only the intellect. One of the signature features of relations of ideas is that the negation of a relation of ideas implies a contradiction. So for instance, if you take the statement in mathematics that 1 plus 1 equals 2, that implies a contradiction because it implies that either 1 is greater than 1 or 1 is less than 1. Matters of fact, on the other hand, are statements that we believe to be true because of empirical evidence. And the key thing about these matters of fact is that the denial of a matter of fact is logically possible, and it does not imply a contradiction. Hume's very famous example of this is the statement, "the sun will rise tomorrow." The denial of that statement is the sun will not rise tomorrow. And Hume's point is that it is logically possible that the sun will not rise tomorrow. Of course, we don't think that it's probable that the sun will not rise tomorrow, but we're not focusing yet on what makes a statement probably true. We're only focusing on whether or not it is possible for the denial of a statement to be true. And in this case, it is possible that the sun will not rise tomorrow. So the key thing about matters of fact, which is what we want to focus on when we're focusing on inductive inferences, is that the negation of a matter of fact is logically possible. And this is really at the core of Hume's problem of induction. Here's why. Suppose we take a simple statement of the sort that we think characterizes our knowledge about the past. Suppose we say, in the past, whenever I drink water, it quenches my thirst. That's how I learned from experience, by noticing things that have happened in the past in a patterned way. And now suppose that I say, well, next time I drink water, it will quench my thirst. Statements 1 and 2 here do not say the same thing. So that if I state the first claim, that in the past, whenever I drink water, it quenches my thirst, and then I state the second claim, that in the future, if I drink water, it will quench my thirst, I'm making an inference, and I am not merely repeating myself. Now Hume says, well, okay, if we look at this kind of inference, what can we say about how secure it is? And he says, well, the very first thing you notice is that this is not a deductive inference because the premise could be true and the conclusion could be false. And the reason why that's a possibility is because it's always logically possible for a matter of fact to be false. And here, claim number 2 is a matter of fact. So its denial is logically possible. Now, it might seem like there's something missing here, says Hume. Maybe the reason why we think this is not a good inference is because there's a missing premise. And the missing premise says, the future resembles the past. Now, if I look at this inference, it's still the case that this is not a good deductive inference because it could still be true that statement number 1 and statement number 1.5 are both true, but it's false that in the future, if I drink water, it will quench my thirst. It's also the case that I cannot know with certainty that the statement, the future resembles the past, is true. Because if I think about that, what I realize is that the only thing I really know is that in the past, the future has resembled the past. But I don't know that in the future will resemble the past. And this is really the core of Hume's problem of induction. So to say it a slightly different way, we could think of Hume's problem of induction as saying that we have no rational grounds for believing in the uniformity of nature. Even when we think of a very well-established physical law, for example, the law of conservation of energy, and we have lots and lots of evidence that the law of conservation of energy has been true since, say, the beginning of the universe, it's still logically possible that the law of conservation of energy would cease to work at midnight tonight. Now, Hume is not saying that that will probably happen, but what he's saying is that our belief that it won't, that our belief that our law of conservation of energy will continue to be true in the future, is grounded not on rational deductive reasoning, but merely on a deeply ingrained habit that we have of expecting the future to resemble the past. And again, the key point is that habits don't produce knowledge.